feel like I'm in High School Musical saying, what time is it? Summertime. Okay, your girl can't sing. But we are gonna make the second episode of what I'm calling episodes of a carnival fair themed food. If you guys saw my last video, which was funnel cake, which was so good. Still having dreams about it. And I also just made one before I made this video because they were that good. But we are gonna do corn dogs. Now, one of you guys mentioned a foot-long corn dog. I, for the life of me, could not find hot dogs that were a foot long. Let me know where you guys are at, if they have those, because they definitely don't where I'm at. But we are gonna make corn dogs that are so good, so crispy, mouth watering. All right, let's get into it. Also, what is this with my hands? I'm just gonna do the wave. Okay, yeah, I need to stop. All right, let's get into the video. In our bowl, we can start with our dry mix. I'm gonna do half of a cup of some yellow cornmeal. You can use white cornmeal too. Okay, my hands are like most definitely wet. You can use white cornmeal, but I feel like the yellow just really helps bring home that color and like that classic corn dog vibe. Then a third of a cup of some all-purpose flour. Then we're gonna do 2 tablespoons of some white sugar. You can leave it out if you just don't feel like adding the sugar and you kind of want to keep it, I don't know, lower sugar, lower calorie, but the sugar really helps adhere everything and just kind of help crisp up the exterior, and it definitely helps brown everything. Then we'll do 2 teaspoons of just some baking powder, just a tiny hit of some salt. And that's all for the dry mix. Now we're just gonna give this a whiskey until it's like nicely mixed together and you don't see a layer of just cornmeal on the bottom. Then for our wet ingredients, I'm gonna add our buttermilk. If you guys do not have buttermilk, you can always do whole milk. It always works best with whole, but I've definitely done it with 2%. And just add about a tablespoon of white vinegar in there. You can always use apple cider vinegar as well. And since this is a savory dish and you're not using it in baking, you're not gonna taste it whatsoever. And we're just gonna whisk this together. You're gonna get a little bit of bubbly, foamy reaction from the baking powder. But other than that, it's gonna come together really well. And you do want it to be thick because you want it to coat your hot dog. Now, as it sits, it will thicken up a little bit, but I think this is pretty good. Now that our batter is nice and done, I'm gonna take I guess people would call this like a highball glass. This is just like a beer mug, essentially. You just want something that is a little bit longer than the hot dog. And if anything, if you can just literally cut the hot dog in half and have like little mini corn dogs. But we're gonna pour all of this batter in there. Okay, I actually almost just forgot my little secret trick. I'm gonna take a little bit of cooking spray and we're gonna spray, if I could rotate it, the sides of the glass to make sure that it doesn't get stuck. Then we can pour our batter in. And if you wanted to make this ahead, I would definitely, obviously with anything fried, you pretty much, unless you're gonna store it in the oven at a low temperature, you're gonna have to make it fresh, but you can make this batter, yeah, I almost said dough. You can make this batter the night before and just let it hang out in the fridge and you will be good to go. But of course, I mean, you would wanna wait for it to come to room temperature before you start frying. Like in my funnel cake video, I definitely told you guys, timing and temperature is probably one of the hardest things whenever it comes down to frying. It's just a matter of, okay, are we getting too hot now? Are we cooling down too much? Okay, moving our batter aside. Now, I have 3, these are the Johnsonville Better Cheddar sausages here. You could, like I said, use a hot dog. I'm just not very big on hot dogs unless they are like pitch black, like almost burnt to a crisp from the grill. I don't want them. I just never grew up on hot dogs. That might sound kind of bougie, but I just didn't. So I'm not really the biggest fan of them, but you could use them obviously for this recipe. So I'm gonna use these cheddar sausages. You could always use even like an Italian sausage if that's your vibe. You could always use like a cheddar and jalapeno, a cheddar, a Cajun, ooh, or even like one of those chicken apple sausages. Okay, let me not get ahead of myself. But the one thing you want to do is like blot them off with a paper towel or a little napkin, and you want the exterior of them to be basically dried for them to look not as attractive, because you need a dry surface for the batter to adhere to it and not just fall apart in the fryer. So if you don't have a paper towel or you just don't want to blot them off, feel free to toss them in a little bit of flour. Either way, as long as they're dry, you're gonna be good. Okay, so now that we've had our little sausage talk out of the way, let's talk skewers. So I have two different kind here. These are just regular bamboo skewers. I got these from Walmart, I think. Yeah, for like 99 cents or even less. I know during the summertime, they're a lot cheaper. But one thing I will tell you, probably because I bought the cheapest one, they are very thin and they're bendy, but they're kind of cheap. Your corn dog is going to be heavy, so it is just going to kind of like weigh everything down and it might snap, but they work. I'll be completely honest. If you wanted to break it in half and then use two of them to skewer it, you absolutely could and you'd be good to go. But please just remind your guests, if you're making these for a bunch of people, that there are skewers in them, especially ones like this that are sharp. And they come in different lengths too. As long as they're bigger than what, like 5 inches of a hot dog, you'll be good. But my favorite way to do it is with a metal skewer because obviously they're a lot more sturdy and they're reusable. So, you know, save the earth. But the one thing I will say, if you are going to use a metal skewer like this one's like pretty long. I'd say it's a good like 16 inches. But you want to be careful, obviously, because when you are putting this in a fryer, let's say only half of it is going to be submerged, this whole entire thing is going to get very, very hot. So of course, pay attention to all of that. Okay, now let's talk oil. I'm just using regular old vegetable oil. You could use avocado oil, coconut oil, or even canola oil. Any high temperature oil that says like great for frying, that's what you want. I do not recommend an olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. And if you use coconut oil, yes, coconut oil in large amounts does impart a tiny bit of flavor, but you're not gonna get a coconutty corn dog. You're just gonna get that kind of essence of it. But like I always say, frying in avocado oil is so expensive. So pick whatever oil your heart desires. Our oil is pretty much almost ready to go. So now I'm gonna start doing this. And as always, you can skewer them before. Okay, mine did not go, mine didn't go in straight. Should I fix that? Okay. Try as best as we can. Okay, you know what? Good enough. So it's on there nice and sturdy, not too, it's pretty much in the center, so we're good. Now, you're gonna take this and you're gonna plunge it in. Now, I would recommend also kind of getting a spoon just to help it reach the top a little bit. And I think I mentioned it before, but just in case I didn't, if you are doubling up this recipe, feel free to add an egg because it will help everything adhere. Okay, just in case you can't get it to the top, I'm trying my hardest to not have to get out another spoon. Okay, now we're good. If you wanted to smooth it out, you absolutely could. Okay, now I didn't think this through. Now I have to show you guys the fryer angle. Okay, this is as best of an angle with a super shaky camera here. This is as best of an angle as I am able to give you guys. I have, okay, I'm trying to check the temperature. We are at 400 degrees. I kind of want it to be at 350, but of course, whenever you add anything into a fryer, as you add stuff in, the temp is gonna drop. Not super significantly, but it is going to drop. So in there, I just have a candy thermometer. Once I get this in here, then I can talk about it. I know you guys are wondering, Amber, you also have like a super small pan that or pot that you're doing it in. I just don't have anything bigger that I won't have to add literally like a gallon of oil to. Okay, so now very gently, and of course, whenever you are frying anything, this is the reason a lot of people burn down their houses at Thanksgiving because they try to deep fry a turkey. You do not want your oil to be at the brim because when you add stuff in, of course, just like when you get in a bathtub, you don't fill the bathtub all the way up with water and then get in, you know? Okay, now we're gonna add this in and you slowly just want to spin so nothing gets stuck to the bottom. And you see how the oil is just bubbling and bubbling? So I know you're thinking, Amber, how are you gonna cook the end? And I'll be completely honest, this first one might be absolutely terrible because, you know, just like the first pancake. Okay, now we're gonna let it sit there and we're gonna fry. And because my pot is not big enough, I'm probably gonna have to rotate, but it's okay. Okay, I will show you guys what the first one looked like when it came out. But like I said, feel free to just cut it in half and then just go from there so that this one can actually be fully submerged in. I had to baste it with a, of course, metal spoon. Do not use plastic. But just to get the top of it because Amber did not have enough oil, but she also did not have a big enough pan, but it's okay. So now just spinning it to make sure it cooks evenly. And then I'll let it sit on each side for like 30 seconds. This is, like I said, you want to really work on your heat. And that's why it is so important if you're gonna deep fry to have a candy thermometer or even just a meat thermometer. But with those, you usually have to get a little bit closer. This popping, this is what makes me nervous here. Okay, the first corn dog definitely came out a little bit dark at the top, but it's okay because for me, this is what I'm here for. Can you guys hear that? Yeah, the crispness, but like I said, be careful because from like here up, super, super hot. Oh, I cannot wait to dip this in some mustard and ketchup. And I know somebody's gonna say, you have to bite into it. Look, oh, it's so freaking crispy.